screwed up again. Welcome to Long Box Diving, where we pull comics out of the long box. So, the last time I tried to record this, it used the wrong default microphone. I don't know where it got the idea to use the wrong default microphone, because the default setup for one thing, and one thing only, on OBS and my settings, but it used the wrong microphone, and I didn't realize until I got the entire video recorded. So instead of doing the 20-minute video that I had, we're going to do something else and make it shorter. So, we look at these two comics, okay? Part 5 and 6. There's a lot of fighting. Like, if you go through, there's a lot of fighting. Apocalypse looks like a Battletoad. Jubilee has some great lines like, "You're a third-gen Closet knockoff." However, I already recorded all of this before, and you won't be able to hear any of it, which is frustrating. There's a big ad in the middle of both books from two different companies. One is called Hero Quest, one is called Dragon Quest. Tells you there's some competition going on. Polaris is the only one in the entire X-Men who's making sense right now. She's frustrated and upset that they're having to lock up X-Force, who are little more than kids, teenagers, young adults, whatever you want to call them. Even though they did nothing wrong, they have no proof, they're treating them as criminals. And she's right. She's the only one in this entire company who's right. She's it. Everyone else is mad at X-Force and blaming them for Professor X. Tensions are high, I get it, but these are, like, they're not the cause of your problems. And Polaris is the only one that seems to be getting it. If only you heard my last video, because I ranted about that for a little bit. There's some more fighting. Lots of fighting. And for the sake of time, I'm not going to describe panel by panel the fighting, because it's cool to watch. There's just not a lot for me to say about it other than, wow, he threw very good. He punched super well. I like fighting. I enjoy it. But you don't read Game of Thrones for the fighting scenes. You read it for the political drama. Unless you're a weirdo. In which case, you go ahead. Read it for the fighting. That's just not me. Strife is mentally torturing Jean Grey. Because he's upset that he never got because he's upset that a little baby never got the nurturing love of a mother, and instead got sheltered away to deal with the robotic harshness of the future. So edgy. Mr. Sinister, great villain moment. In case you haven't remembered, he told the X-Men that the person who has Scott and Jean is Strife. Mr. Sinister is a great villain in this arc so far. He has set up Apocalypse to be the kidnapper, which has distracted some X-Men. He traded them for a piece of equipment to Strife, and then he betrayed Strife so that way the X-Men will chase after Strife and stop whatever plans Strife has. And that way, Mr. Sinister is in the clear to do whatever he wants, and he has some goodwill with the X-Men. It's always great to have. They have another great line that says, "Hey, Strife could be Cable walking around with a bucket on his head." Boop. That might be true. Wolverine and Bishop are killing Canadians. God's work right there. There's Volt. More fighting. Apocalypse takes out all 6 mutants on the X-Men who fought him because he's Apocalypse. And then he flees. Havoc and Gambit offer Speedball, Sam, and the X-Force jobs to help take down the MLF because they have Scott and Jean in return for being treated as normal people. And Cable is looking for clues on where Strife is because Cable suspects Strife, and he runs into Wolverine and X-Men. There's your rundown of this comic. And it's not bad. There's a lot of fighting between Apocalypse and the X-Men in here, and a lot of fighting between Wolverine and Bishop and Canadian soldiers. Neither one of which is super plot heavy. Like, those fights do not help with the plot. You know what I mean? At least so far. Like, maybe they will in the future. Well, the Apocalypse fight definitely won't. Maybe Bishop and Wolverine, maybe. But the Apocalypse fight led nowhere. It literally only served to show Apocalypse beating up X-Men. And that's pretty much it. And like the rest of the X-Men immediately go and join up with X-Factor and X-Force and the other mutants to go hunt down the MLF. It served no point, basically. Then we get more fighting in the beginning of the next comic. It's an X-Factor comic, so it is dark as all get out. Like, I'm just talking, there's lots of black space, which it just does not look appealing when you're trying to read the comic because there's no color on it. So there's fighting, more fighting, more fighting. There's a lot of fighting in these issues. Granted, these ones serve a point. The X-Men are fighting the MLF troops in the middle of Arkansas. Nothing good comes out of Arkansas. And they're going to find out a secret. Apocalypse is getting guns. And there's more fighting. Like, I mean, I'm being honest. We're already 10 pages, 12 pages, 12 pages in, halfway through, and it's just been fighting. That's cool. It's enjoyable. But it's hard for me to talk about because it's just, he punches well. Bishop has a cool thing where he shoots laser beams once he gets hit with a bolt. And the banter is just banter, right? Then we get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 page advert for Dragon Quest by TSR, who is gone, and now it's Wizards of the Coast who makes Dungeons and Dragons. But it's 6 pages of the comic where it's advertising a game that hasn't been out for 20 plus years. More fighting. Quicksilver gets slowed down at one point, and Gambit and Psylocke have to save him. He owes them a debt. We'll get to that later. I talked about this in the last one, and I really emphasized it. I'm gonna make it more quick here. This is the only 2 panels so far where I think the darkness worked. I'll show it to you on screen. But Cyclops being in a dark room, and the only thing that's lit up is his laser beam, is brilliant. I like this panel a whole lot. His eyes, his lasers, the only thing that's lighting up the room. This is great. It works for the next scene. The next scene is really grim because he was attacking children, and Jean was there. And Strife is also very much like, being a leader means you have to hurt others in the process. Are you okay with that? Does that matter to you? Strife. But yeah, it works there. We have another scene. More fighting, but this actually serves a point, and I think will come up in the plot in the future. Angel accidentally kills a man. Well, mutant, but yeah. His wings, which are metal now, accidentally slice through the head of Kamikaze the mutant. Boom Boom points out the irony, but it's ill-timed. And I had a ton of beheading jokes in the last version of this video that you're not going to get because that video has been axed. Cable gets enough of the fighting, right? He's done. We're near the end of the comic. He's like, Wolverine, I didn't shoot Professor X. If you believe me, great. If you don't, stab me right now. And Wolverine gets real close. And he does his Wolverine thing, which is sniffing and sensing your heart rate. And he's like, and he goes to impale Cable, and he retracts his claws at the last second, causing him just to punch Cable in the gut. It appears as if Wolverine believes him. Bishop doesn't believe him because it's Cable. Cable shot Professor X. Bishop doesn't believe him, but Wolverine stops the fighting. Jamie Madrox gets chloroformed. This is a whole page. I have no idea what point it serves. Then there's the last 2 pages, which sets up the next comic's villain, the Reaper, who's about to behead Quicksilver because Quicksilver saved Gambit. So that's pretty much it. And then we get another 2 pages for Dragon Quest. If you can find Dragon Quest out, well, 3 pages, excuse me, you get the back cover too. If you can find Dragon Quest, let me know if it's a good game and worth 9 pages of a comic. I'm kidding, I love role-playing games. That said, I do want to talk about these 2 comics. It's the middle of the arc, right? You're getting to like 6 and 7 are the middle. We're at 5 and 6. 5 was pretty much just running around fighting things, and none of the fights led to any plot. And we're finally getting to a point where, okay, the story is ramping up. The fights matter. Reaper does not matter whatsoever. But the fights, even the small ones, are leading up to a point here. We're done with all the games. We're done with Apocalypse. We're done with Mr. Sinister and fighting the Horsemen. We're done with that. We're finally getting to a point where this is important. I can't wait to cover the next 2 issues because maybe we can actually start getting into some cool plot drama. Besides just fights that are cool to look at. That's my opinion. If you like the fights, good, great for you, thumbs up. These comics are worth it. This whole arc is worth it. Also, just comic books. I'll see you next time.